within a little over a month, we had our first creative finance deal, seller finance, free and clear property. It was a turnkey. It was like not a junker. It was the first house we bought that we didn't have to do work to. So, which is really nice. We bought it with $100 down. I had a 0% mortgage and a super low $500 payment in New York. Like that was a crazy deal. I remember getting home and showing her the agreement because I signed it with him at McDonald's. And like that was the day life changed.
Yep.
Welcome to the Real Freedom Show, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom, Real Estate Leverage Freedom, where we talk about different ways that people can build wealth, gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I know for a lot of you out there, you often hear, I don't have the money to invest. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get the money. My debt to income ratio is off. And so you've probably heard a lot about creative financing. And for a lot of people, at least the people that I talk to, they don't know enough about it. They feel scared about it. It feels weird, maybe for some people, but when you're in it, there's a lot of success. So today's guests, we've got Joe and Jenn, Delle Fave, and they have put together the Creative Finance Playbook, also host of the Creative Finance Playbook Podcast. Just a great story of working W-2 type jobs, building wealth in real estate, being able to move from Florida. I heard a great story of you guys selling everything, moving back down to Florida after being in Florida. So excited to hear kind of more of your journey and how that works. But you guys really focus on creative financing. And so would love to dispel a lot of the myths out there and you guys to be able to share how you guys are doing that. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike, for having us on.
Yeah, we're super pumped to be here.
Go back a little bit, share that backstory, and talk about how you guys got into real estate.
Well, you know, we're doing a lot of deals now. We got a closing we're doing in a couple of weeks with a house built just 2 years ago, and they're open to seller financing. So it's really changed our whole business, but it did not start that way in the beginning. It was the year 2000, 24 years ago. I was completely broke. I was like 22 at the time. My buddy bought a course on some late night commercial about real estate. That's what got me into it. I begged him to let me borrow it. I did. A month later, I had a deal under contract and I wholesaled it. I didn't even know what that even was. I got it under contract. I found a cash buyer, but I made like $12,733 on that deal. And back then I was so broke. I never went to college. So to have that kind of money, it was like life-changing for me because before that, if I had $1,000 in my checking account, it's because I didn't pay rent yet that month. So this was really big, and it really kind of, you know, all my family and friends who are kind of negative and like, what are you even doing in real estate? Like, you don't have money, you're broke. And how are you going to do this deal? It worked. And everybody just jaw hit the ground. So lucky enough to meet Jenn, had a job, met Jenn, and she was a school teacher.
Yeah, so 2008, we met in January. I owned my own house. He owned his own house. And by the end of summer, we were starting to buy some properties that were definitely in need of some love, fixer-uppers. The market had started crashing. And so in upstate New York, we could pick up a house around, what, 40,000?
Yeah.
And it was actually a decent area, a nice little house. It just needed some work. And slowly added like a property every other year in the very beginning. I was still teaching middle school English, which I loved, but Joe was in the car dealership and we just had no time together. So we got married in 2010, and then I walked away in 2011. And we really started to talk about our future of like, how do we spend more time together? And we saw real estate as a vehicle. We just didn't know exactly how to implement it.
Yeah, because when Jenn walked away from being a teacher, we're like, okay, like we're gonna start having kids. We're gonna be like this family. It's gonna go to my dealership job, but we still wanted to buy real estate, and so we were doing it kind of slow. And that's what we didn't learn. I didn't know what BRRRR was.
Yeah.
But that's what we were doing. But we weren't getting to the portfolio size as quickly as I would hope to, right?
Yeah.
Because now I'm in my 30s, and you know, just trying to scale. So maybe I could eventually leave these golden handcuffs of my job, because ultimately, like, I worked a lot. I didn't see my kids. I barely saw my wife. And when I was home, I was exhausted from working 12, 13-hour days, right? So that was a goal. And then in 2016, I was at the bank refinancing out of our latest deal that we were doing. I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, And my friend at the bank was like, hey, you know, at 10 mortgages, the bank's gonna end up cutting you off. So what are you gonna do next? And like, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So I went down a rabbit hole. I started researching, and then I found out that you can buy real estate without banks, without getting your credit checked, with like, and I heard like $100 down. I'm like, there's no way. I watched like every video back in 2016 when I found this is actually a thing. And my head was like, oh my gosh, it was blown. So first thing we did is we went out and hired some help. We got a coach who walked us through the steps of how to do this. And within a little over a month, we had our first creative finance deal, seller finance, free and clear property. It was a turnkey. It was like not a junker. It was the first house we bought that we didn't have to do work to. So, which is really nice. We bought it with $100 down. I had a 0% mortgage and a super low $500 payment in New York. Like that was a crazy deal. I remember getting home and showing her the agreement because I signed it with them at McDonald's. And like that was the day life changed.
Yep.
That was the day where I'm like,
The light bulbs went off and the proof of concept, everything started really changing there. And then at the time, I think we had 5 properties in 2017, and we learned about the rent to own strategy. So we started changing those rentals over to rent to own. So we started collecting large non-refundable option deposits up front, and then we're actually cash flowing because now the tenants were going to take care of maintenance and repairs. And then eventually those tenants will buy those properties and you make a big back end check too. So that combination of buying on terms and then selling on rent to own is really what helped propel us to where we are today.
Awesome story to hear. I think for a lot of people, you sharing the story about $100 and being able to get your first property, for a lot of people, number one, they may have a thought of like a traditional way that real estate should go, right? Like I've been in residential real estate for 10 years and it's like, well, this is how it goes. I'm an agent. This is what we do, right? Realizing there's so many different ways to do it. And then the other thing that I always think of for people is they always think for you guys to win, somebody else has to lose. And it's really about a win-win situation. You're just looking for the right mix of opportunity. It doesn't mean you're trying to like pull the wool over somebody's eyes or, you know, get one over on them for you guys to get a property. You really can create win-win situations where both sides are really happy with how it works and you don't have to use a bank. And so that's the thing for me over the last few years, investing more and doing more creative financing. There's just so many options out there. There's so many things that you can do to create these win-win scenarios and help you guys and help the sellers that you're working with.
Well, and you hit it on the head because like we paid his price. I didn't try to like negotiate. He was more than fair with his price. I just asked him if he would do it in payments, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. He didn't really want to list it in the market. It had a lot of sentimental value. It was his grandfather's. He inherited it. You know, he was renting it to a coworker and didn't want to do that anymore because he lived so far away. But then that's what really set that movement forward, that we could actually pay top dollar for a house. All of the people who had a turnkey house that were maybe motivated to sell, sometimes they were motivated and even had some like pain, like some financial struggles or something like that. And if it wasn't a fixer-upper that I could buy for like 50 cents on the dollar, I used to just say, no, thank you, I can't help you. So once I found out, wait a minute, I could still do that and do this too, watch out, world, because here I come. So the next deal we bought, she had a mortgage. That's when I learned I could buy it. Same thing, $100 down. I covered a few thousand in closing costs, and we just took over paying her old mortgage directly to her lender. I didn't assume it. I didn't have to get bank qualified. It was closed in, I don't know, probably a month. This is in upstate New York, so maybe probably even over a month because they're just so slow, but that's a different podcast. But we did that deal. We put in a rent to own, and we're like, oh my gosh, because now instead of getting a security deposit, our renters are giving us 10, 20, 30,000 to move into our rental house. So that was like, wow. Okay. So now we're actually doing it and making money, which is a wonderful thing. And we're helping people because like those people, a bunch of them bought their house, right? Some are still renting. But then COVID happened. And 2020, I was just getting a raise at my job. And he told me, like, you're not quitting anytime soon, are you? And I said, no, oh no, I'll be here for a long time. And he said, good, I'm paying more money. And then 2 weeks later, COVID happened. They shut down New York State. We didn't know what's going on. We had some rental property, so we had that coming. And then that's when Jenn had this crazy idea.
Well, we had intentions of going full time eventually. Like the goal was when our youngest son went to kindergarten in the fall, you know, I'd go all in, we'd run some sponsored ads, we'd have this whole like kind of operation up and running. And it just happened a lot sooner. So in March of 2020, Joe never went back to the dealership and we bet on ourselves and we went all in and just started building a team eventually, and really ended up down here
Well,
years later.
and that's what happened. Our coach at that time, different one, said you can't do it yourself. Like you got to get some help. And we did. And like one guy was a pizza delivery guy who was 19. The other one was a 22-year-old bartender. But we brought him on our team. We showed him exactly what to do. Now we started getting a ton of leads, and now we're just doing deals. And we went from doing one deal every year or so to now doing a deal a month. And then it started getting to 2 deals a month and 3. And then we started bringing on more people to our team. And then it started just doing a bunch of deals. And that's when I think really we've kind of opened up. I love upstate New York, but can we do deals in Pennsylvania? How about Florida? It was hot market. What about the Carolinas and Texas? And we even did one in North Pole, Alaska, which is crazy. And so from doing deals in Florida, obviously we wanted to get away. We were tired of being in the snow. We're working from home. We homeschool our 2 kiddos. So Jenn had the master plan 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Like, we're going to get away. Let's just go to Florida for a month. We work from home. We do this all virtually anyways. So we came down to Florida for 1 month, end up staying for 3. Our Airbnb host must have loved us because we just kept on renewing, and they had 3 months of us staying there, which was great. And then that's when we made the decision to go back to New York, sell our house. We still got a bunch of rentals and other properties up there, and move to Florida. So that's what we've done.
Talk a little bit about finding these opportunities, right? I mean, because so many people have been trained to think a certain way on the seller side, you're looking for these opportunities to find people who have flexibility, find people that are open-minded to do this. So for people maybe listening to this, exploring that conversation, I think number one, there's probably some mindset work that you might have to think about first to kind of clear out the junk, be open to accepting these other ways of doing things. But how does that conversation go? How do you find these people that are open to doing it this way?
Yeah, before you even dive into how, I would say like mindset on yourself too. Like, don't assume that a seller would just say no. I think that was a really big aha moment for me, was like, you don't know unless you ask, right? So that's really what's going to be important. So there are people out there that will do terms. You just have to ask the questions. And so, like you said, like really work on the mindset. That really is, I would say, 95% of it.
Well, and like you kind of already said earlier, if you're providing some value and it's a win for them, they don't, these aren't like junkers. These are like really nice houses that they wouldn't take a low cash offer.
Won't work.
It won't work, right? And so if I'm able to pay their price and they're just a little bit flexible on either me taking over their current loan because it's got a really low rate and a really low payment, so now I could cash flow, or if it's a free and clear property, and we could kind of work out those details, right? And make it a win so they're getting some money. And the way we could structure it is generally, because we pay all the fees and all of that, they're going to make the most money doing business with us than they would any other way. There's no commissions like there would be if you listed your house with an agent. So if I could pay a good price and I could still get great terms on the deal, we both walk away high five. This is a great deal for both of us. And I think that's the key. So it is a mindset shift, because now, like I said, no junkers. Although this works on junkers too. So that's a different story. But so where do we find them? I think that's the big thing. That's the number one stopper of business. Doesn't matter if you're wholesaling, you're an agent, you're whatever. So how do I find motivated sellers? I'm going to give your audience a big secret weapon that we use, that they could use, and they could start generating leads today, anywhere in the country, for free without spending any money. And it's just sitting right in our lap.
Yeah, so we love Facebook, and a lot of people kind of roll their eyes like Facebook is so old school, like no one's on Facebook. But guys, sellers are on Facebook, and I seriously think it's really underused. So dust off your profile. It's okay if you haven't used it in a while. Like, let's get back up to speed, take off old college photos, whatever. But you're going to go into like different areas. So one, on your Facebook profile, like tell everybody that you're looking to buy houses, right? Keep it simple. We don't ever use crazy terms like sub-2, creative financing, just let everyone know that you buy houses. Like, keep it really simple. And then from there, whatever areas you're looking to invest in, there are a ton of Facebook groups. Like, how many? 10 million?
There's 10 million Facebook groups.
Which is crazy.
And it's like 70% of the US population is on Facebook. So a lot of people, 10 million groups, there's groups everywhere. So say we want to join groups in Kansas City, right? Because maybe I want to do business in Kansas City. You just go in the search bar in Facebook and put in Kansas City, hit groups. There's all of these groups, and there's all different interests. It could be, I love, the area, moving to, garage sale, yard sale.
These are not real estate groups. Yeah, they're like community groups, like
Yeah.
where people are hanging out on Facebook.
Farmers looking for farmers groups, like, hey, they're it's all good. Maybe they found love and they have a house to sell now, right? So join all of the groups, especially if it's a really active group. And then make a post inside of the group talking about you buying houses. And do you want to?
Go ahead.
Oh, we're gonna do it. All right. So this is the exact one we use, but I'm going to tell you 2 big tips. If you're going to use it, please use it exactly like this. Don't change it because it doesn't work as well. I have split tested this thing billions of times. And when we use it, you could have sometimes no groups. You'll have a group that maybe you don't get anything from. That's okay. You'll have some groups you get some from. Our record is one group produced 1,100 comments on this post. So if you're looking for off-market leads, people who are actually reaching out to you, I'm not calling them or bothering them. They're reaching out to me saying I have a house to sell. 1,100 comments in one post. That's very unlikely, but hey, if you get a higher number, just send me what you got. So when we do is I go into a group, I'm going to make a post inside that group. If it's a buy and sell group and it's like, what do you want to sell? There's actually a tab for discussion where I could just make a post, hit discussion, make this post. And here's what it says. It's really simple. Don't giggle, but it works really well. Does anyone have a house for sale that's not market ready? I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 months. Now I can make slight variations. My wife and I are looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 months or the next 2 to 3 weeks. But the front part's got to stay. Does anyone have a house for sale that's not market ready? The minute you put like, hey, everybody, I live in the area, it puts it too wordy. Keep it simple. Now, before you hit submit or hit post, you could actually change the background. You can make different colors, right? We call it the blue post because I would always do that blue. It really stands out well and it pops when it goes by your screen. I've used pink. There's a poop emoji. Don't use that one. But there's a lot of great ones that kind of like stick out and use that background. And then here's the next tip. Put it into like 4 or 5 groups every day. 5, 6 days a week. It only takes 5 minutes to do it. But now you're going to have people messaging you or they're going to write a comment saying, I do. Now, and don't get me wrong. Some people will be like scam or whatever. Ignore them. It just helps boost your algorithms. If they do comment that. So it's just getting more people for free. So if they do, say no scam here, move on, smiley face emoji. Don't fight with them. But you'll start getting comments and check your message folder because there's like a spam folder inside your messenger. And sometimes you'll have Bob and Nancy sit in there like, hey, I have a house and this is my address. I want to sell it because I live somewhere else, right? And then start messaging, right? Here's your leads, guys. Do your thing. Talk to sellers. It's a numbers game.
I think, going back to mindset, I tell people like your job isn't to convince everybody that they should do it this way. You're just looking for the people that are open-minded to it, right? And so you're sifting and sorting through all these people, all these comments to find the hand raisers. You don't have to go to every single person and say, here's why you must sell creatively. Here's why you have to do it this way. No, you're just looking for the people that are open-minded, the path of least resistance, right? And then you deal with the people that raise their hand and are open-minded.
Well, and you said it perfectly. So what we've done is we've actually just designed a script. This is the script that is so easy peasy, lemon squeezy, like anybody could use it. We actually have a virtual assistant do it. My kids have actually done it and they're like 9 and 11. And it's just copy and pasting one question at a time where we're actually asking great questions and the seller is making us the offer. And that's where things have changed. We learned that from like really great negotiators, like ask questions, have them give you the numbers, right? So once we figured out how to do that with our script, that really changed everything. And if your audience wants that script, we give it away for free. There's no charge. Go use it. Don't change it. We give away that blue ad post, like go generate leads. It's free. It doesn't cost any money. But these were the 2 biggest things that held me back in the beginning. I couldn't find the people. I didn't know what to say to them. This takes all of the thinking out. Now just go take action and take massive action, take messy action. If you goof up, no big deal. Just don't write a big check and you can't goof up too bad, right? But get some, advice on how to do it properly. If you're going to really go and you're like, hey, this is definitely what I'm going to do. I always recommend getting some great attorney and things like that, as getting good legal advice and professional advice on how to do this properly, I think was key too.
Now, in terms of, finding markets, I think people might think, okay, you were in New York, now you're in Florida, Pennsylvania, like, what is that? Kansas City, what is that? Like, how would I maybe decide like where I want to pursue? I can go to anywhere in the United States. So where am I going to pick? And I think some people sometimes too think I have to pick the one perfect market or the best market. No, every market has opportunity, right? So how are you guys helping people decide where to go?
So I always say first start where you know and where you live, your own backyard. Now, some people like, okay, I live in Florida. House here is $1 million. It's a lot of money. But if I'm not buying with any credit, I'm not buying with banks, I'm not really coming up with $1 million or paying cash for the property. I'm able to buy it on terms and things like that. I don't feel like there's anything that's too over or under the range. My favorite thing, I will tell you, my secret weapon is where I am buying, wherever that market is. I find out what the median price range is in that area. And I like to stick around that or slightly under that, but I want to do it in the best school districts. Because I could feel like, man, if the market's going up or if it's going down, if I'm around a little bit under the median house price range and I'm in a really great school district, to me, that's always a kind of a safe bet. And if the area is cash flowing and it's a beautiful house and a beautiful neighborhood, uh, anywhere across the USA, that's primarily what I love. So is it sometimes in a small town in the middle of Pennsylvania? Yeah, I have some that cash flow really nicely back there. Probably not going to appreciate time and time and time over in the next 15, 20 years because those houses generally don't do as much. But then there's opportunities like Florida and the Carolinas, and there's so many places. So for me, I want to look at obviously appreciation over time. That's how you build wealth, is by holding them. But also too, like you got to cash flow. Because if you don't cash flow and things start to happen, you're not going to have that money to go fix things, right? Take care of it. And so to have that money coming in every single month, and that's how you're going to build that freedom, because eventually, 1 + 1 = 2, and then 2 + 2 is 4, and then all of a sudden it starts to grow, and you've got some serious cash flow coming in eventually.
Real estate agents, are you tired of letting the busyness of life get in your way from achieving your real estate investing goals? I'm super excited to announce we've created the Real Freedom Investor Agent Tribe. It's a place for you to come, get educated, and network with others so that you can make sure that you're hitting your real estate investment goals. So find out more on our website, realfreedom.com. Click on the store link. We've got a membership, we've got a mastermind group, and some private coaching as well. Check it out. I've priced it super low. The goal is to get you in, not have price be a determining factor to keep you from your goals. So come check it out, schedule a call with me, and we're happy to see where your real estate journey is going to take you. Talk a little bit about property management. Now, I know you mentioned, rent to own options are great because now the people living there are taking care of some of that stuff. What would you say to people who are concerned about, I'm not a handy person, I don't know what to do if I'm managing a property in another state? What are my options there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've never had a property manager. When we just had our rentals, it was just us. And that was what we quickly realized we did not want to deal with, all of the phone calls and the time and time again of this happened. So when we found the rent to own option, it was really the best of both worlds, because now our tenants are becoming homeowners kind of in training, and they do take care of it all. So honestly, the only thing we have to worry about is collecting the rent at this point, or maybe the occasional utility bill that we have to pay and bill them for. And that can all be done online. So the rent to own option is just a beautiful hands-off approach where honestly, we do get way less calls. If anything, they're like, do you have a contractor that like and trust that you'd recommend? And then they're carrying that bill on there. So I love it. And I think that it really truly sets us up for success. It set the seller up for success who entrusted us with their mortgage. And now we're helping renters become homeowners. And so I'm a huge fan of rent to own. And then we're not having to pay a property management company. At some point, if your business grows like ours, you will want to hire some sort of assistant. We have an executive assistant who helps us kind of man all of that now. I would say anything over 10 properties, it started getting a little much for just me. So I'd say that was the point where I wish I had hired sooner. So if you have quite a few properties and you feel a little overwhelmed, then definitely get some help, but you don't need to pay those big fees to a management company if you're doing rent to own.
Well, and I think you're right. And we attract a completely different renter, a completely different client. These aren't folks who are just going to plan on moving in and moving out. Like they're planning on staying there, right? They're putting down roots, their family, their kids in school and things like that. So they really care. And I think that's the big thing. When you see the pride that they take in there, it's really fulfilling because you own a property, right? That's like almost like your baby out there. So to have somebody take really good care of it makes me feel great. Makes me sleep better.
Yeah, they've got the vested interest because they want to make payments. They want to, eventually potentially own that property, and they're going to treat it like their own. And so it's not just oh, who cares, put holes in the wall and treat it like dirt. They're going to want to take pride in that. And two, you've got these Facebook groups that you're in. You can just post in there, hey, who knows of a good so-and-so? That's the thing that I found too, is these Facebook groups are great for finding recommendations. People love to talk about who they've worked with that they love. And so asking for recommendations in these Facebook groups is good too.
Yeah, spot on.
Talk a little bit about kind of your lifestyle, right? We talk about building time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. Now that you guys have built and grown this, obviously you moved to a new state, you're able to homeschool your kids, travel, things like that. So talk about the other side for people that are listening that are just getting started, wondering, is it worth it? There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of hassle out there. You guys are on a different side of this. So talk about how your lives have changed because you've went through this and because of all the lessons you've learned.
I'd say the first thing that pops in my head is like our health, being able to, wake up when our bodies are ready. If it's 6 a.m., great. If it's 7, because I need a little extra sleep, cool. We take a morning walk. It's 75 degrees right now. And we checked the weather back in Rochester. It was like 48. So like even the quality of life of being able to move outside and being warm, and then having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with our kids is honestly the most amazing thing, I think, because nobody's rushing out the door. There's not this sense of stress of catching a bus or, oh, dad's going to be late for work. It's just, we do have a lot on our plates. We're very busy, but at the same time, we control it. And so I just got back from basically being gone all of September, which was a little crazy. Normally I'm home, but I got to go out to San Diego and meet a bunch of real estate women there. I was at a retreat in Utah with the women investing in real estate community. And so I would never be able to take that much time off as a teacher. There's no way that would have been allowed. And I was able to know that my husband is home with the kids because he's able to be there.
Yeah. And I think the big, thing to always remember is like, if we can do it, you can do this too. I never went to college. I just learned from this, right? I was going to be a chiropractor, chickened out, said no way. But
I went to college, but I learned about literature and Shakespeare, and that's definitely not helping me with, creative financing.
Yeah, not real estate. So the point of just finding the right people who could help you. And so like my day to day is like, I wake up, I go on a walk, we have breakfast together. It's wonderful. Hit the shower, listen to a podcast. And then it's the two things we focus on. Obviously we have our real estate business and we're looking at deals, and I have a small team that's helping, and they're making calls, and we're looking at what deals are we going to do this week. And then we have some clients that we work with that we're teaching this to, and, we're making sure client success, and they're getting deals. And so when you can really kind of focus to like just people being successful around you, and then that helps you be successful. Now you're just focusing on how can I make everybody around me superstars, and that's pretty cool.
And for people listening, I want them to think about, like you said, if I can do it, you can do it too. Sometimes people gloss over that, right? Like, and they just think like, oh, but you had XYZ, you had this handed to you, you're in this position. And I think for people to really realize, like, you can structure this. It may take some time, right? Like you were working your jobs and doing this, and then eventually it steamrolled and it built some momentum. So there is that period there potentially. We always tell my team, there's the two best times to plant a tree, 20 years ago and today, right?
Yeah.
So if I didn't plant it 20 years ago, I got to start today. And so figuring out what steps can I take today that are going to impact, the next 10, 20 years of your life.
Well, and I think that's huge. You got to just get started, right? And I think that's the key. If you look back on my Facebook or Jenn's Instagram, look at our names up. You can go back on our stories and see, like, back when we were just rookies, we had no clue. The first time we went live, and I was like a deer in the headlights, and like, hey, we got this. It was like our 4th house we owned. And so we didn't document it knowing it was ever going to turn into this. Jenn we were just having fun, and that's all it was. But one small win at a time is the key, and it adds up, and it just takes that small little win one step at a time to get you there.
And I think it's putting the blinders on too, because we get very caught up with like what everybody else is doing, because what everyone else is doing is typically not what we're doing, right? Like as entrepreneurs now, like I can totally see that. But when we were getting started and people are like, well, what do you think you're doing with that, real estate business or rent to own? Like sounds a little, weird. And I remember being a little shaky at first because I was new to it, right? And so you have to trust the process, surround yourself with a really supportive community, get your coaches, and just be around those people, because they are the ones that are going to help lift you up. And that's what I wish we had more of that. Like, I'm glad that we had each other, but I know that, now with, with online, it's amazing how we can connect via Zoom and podcasts and all of that. So definitely keep plugging in and tune out the naysayers, just smile and nod and know that if you have that pull in your heart, like keep going. I truly believe that you're on the right path.
For people that want to reach out to you, learn more about you, connect with you, how can they do so?
I love Instagram. So Jenn Delle Fave over on Instagram is where I like to hang out. I share a lot in stories and on my feed.
Same thing, Joseph Delle Fave, Facebook and Instagram, same thing. We like to share a ton of what's going on. Our podcast, we go live and do a podcast every week, Creative Finance Playbook, and our resources. So if somebody's listening and you want to get our script, you want to get that blue post, maybe you didn't write all the details down, it's all on there. CreativeFinancePlaybook.com. You could go download that stuff for free and go put it into work. I mean, if you put this stuff into groups today, you could get leads of off-market properties tonight. And you can focus anywhere around the country, anywhere around the world. So there's no excuses. Like, get leads, talk to people, help them, help yourself, and create the magic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's really inspiring to see, and it's relatable. It seems very simple to do. So I'm excited to see you guys continue to grow and wish you best of luck in the future.